All right, folks, we only have 4 stories to bring you today, but each one of these 4 stories are super big and headline worthy in their own right. So it's really cool. We have just 4 stories, but all of them are actually pretty big. We got some stuff on Metroid Prime 4. We got some stuff on Assassin's Creed Shadows, some tech stuff going on with the Nintendo Switch 2, and more. Also, hey, if you're out there recovering or returning or coming back from Black Friday shopping, if you happen to go out into the world to realize that, yes, humans do still exist. Hey, I was there with you guys today. I went out there for a good 5 hours today to get most of my Christmas shopping done. I had to get a couple items online, but hey, there were some great deals today on a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, not so many great deals on things like, video games. Yeah, you saw like PlayStation 5 consoles discounted, but it didn't feel like a discount. You know what I mean? Like, they're just the same price they used to be. So it's weird. And then obviously Switch 2 is not going to have any discounts this holiday. And look, yeah, there were some Switches out there discounted, which again, back to the price they used to be. So it's just a very weird holiday for video game stuff. Not that there weren't a lot of actual like individual game sales out there and accessories and stuff like that, but I wasn't really shopping for any of that for my family, surprisingly. But yeah, there was a lot of good deals out there, I kind of wish I had, the extra cash to maybe get like some new appliances because, God, the appliance deals were insane. But anyways, big madness out there. I'm really happy, I got to say, to see the madness still existing on Black Friday, despite the online incurrence of shopping. Because, hey, I like to see people getting out in the world and doing things tangibly, not just through a screen. All right, guys, let's go ahead then and get into the stories. I have to remind you, we are giving away 3 copies of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. You can go ahead and enter through the link down in the pinned comment or the description, and let's go ahead and dive in. This news comes from Nintendo right here. This has to do with Metroid Prime 4. For those playing Metroid Prime for the first time, we'll introduce everything from the history of the series to key points about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. All right, now this is a Japanese article from Nintendo's website, so it has been Google translated. So they go over, obviously, the history of Metroid and all of that. What's the Metroid Prime series? We don't care so much about that. We care about the new details for Metroid Prime 4. So, the main series up to Metroid Prime 3 Corruption revolved around the story of the Phazon, an energy substance that mutates living things. But Metroid Prime 4 Beyond begins a new story. So even if you haven't played the previous titles in the series, you can still enjoy it. I've been saying this since the game was announced. I had a feeling that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond was going to be the beginning of something new because what happened at the end of Prime 3 Corruption felt fairly definitive for that story. And yes, folks, that's what's happening. So Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, again, a great beginning entry point for new players. All right, as we get in here, it says, if you know this, you'll be safe. We'll introduce everything from the basics. So story-wise, Samus Aran encounters her nemesis, Cyrax, we know as Sylux, at the Galactic Federation Research Facility. However, she is caught up in an unexpected accident and transported to the unknown planet. As we know, the unknown planet is not called Virus, it's called Vuros. Again, this is a translation of Japanese. Together with the Galactic Federation soldiers who are transported with her, they must work together to return to the homeworld. All right, so they go over some of the planet stuff here, and again, none of these planet names are going to be correct. The screenshots are going to look really good. I mean, this is just a given. Brand new screenshots from Nintendo. Things are going to look good. Some of these they shared on social media already, of course, but it still looks really, really, really good. Like these different environments, this stuff looks very enticing. It is a first-person adventure, of course, 360 degrees, exploring the world from Samus's perspective. The key is scanning. Enemies can be locked on in the center of the screen, yada, yada, yada. You have the new power with the psychic abilities. This is all stuff that we know. But there's some stuff in here that we didn't know, and that's what's really interesting. So obviously they talk about the Galactic Soldier stuff, which has been a little controversial on the internet so far. But this is where you get to some new. You can first play Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. You choose from 2 difficulty levels, casual and normal. It's casual and normal, but you look at this. There's an additional difficulty mode. Casual mode lowers enemy HP and reduces the amount of damage you take, making it recommended for those playing Metroid Prime series for the first time, or those who want to enjoy it casually. If you're confident in your skills, try hard mode, which is unlocked after clearing the game on normal. So they are including hard mode. It would be... I've never really understood the idea of locking it for the whole game. I know this isn't the first time. Games do this all the time. And maybe I'm just being overly critical here. This is normal in gaming, but why not just have that available from the beginning? I just, I don't understand that. Anyways, you can adjust the operation sensitivity, so you can fine tune the sensitivity of the stick and mouse in the option screen as well. You can also adjust the screen display and sound to volumes of your liking. So just kind of looking at some of the settings menus here. Obviously, these are all in Japanese, so it's not going to be something that's honestly too useful for most of us. I don't really feel like putting the translations there. Obviously, they talk about the Switch 2 edition, talking about the different modes there: 4K 60 FPS on Switch 2, 1080p 60 FPS with HDR and handheld. Performance mode, you can get 1080p 120 FPS in HDR, and mobile you get 720p 120 FPS in HDR if you're in performance mode. Again, specifically to the Switch 2 edition, they go over the mouse controls here as well. So that's pretty much it. We got a couple new pieces of information there. Hopefully, you guys are really excited. This game comes out next week. Before I move on, though, I just want to bring up one other thing. I have been seeing reports, I have been seeing links that I am refusing to click on, and more, that Metroid Prime 4 has leaked on the internet. Now, I don't know that it's like available for emulation. We have talked previously about how physical copies were starting to find their way outside of retail stores and into people's hands. That's usually how leaks happen. But what I mean by leaks here is, while yes, there could be a ROM out there and maybe it's being pirated to hell, the entire story has supposedly leaked out there. There's been reviews that have been getting nuked by Nintendo and others. It's very unfortunate when this happens. This is happening due to the Switch 1 version of the game. So sure, Nintendo is ready to move on to Switch 2, which has, things a bit more locked down, and obviously Switch 2s haven't been hacked yet. You can't emulate Switch 2 games yet. So anyways, point is that, it's out there. The information's out there. It's already popping up in my timelines and my feeds. And now, look, I'm a person looking for leaks and all the time, and a person specifically looking for information. So obviously things will come across my timeline more than they would somebody who's not looking for that stuff. But I just wanted to note that it's out there in case you're worried about spoilers and you just want to stay spoiler free for our first true mainline Metroid Prime game in 19 years. Again, comes out next week. We will be doing a launch stream, by the way. Don't know what time. It'll probably be during the day, but we'll figure that out. All right. Next up, we have to go over Assassin's Creed Shadows information, because they posted a very long read with a ton of details officially on their website for the Switch 2 version of the game. And look, for all the flack Ubisoft gets, they gave us a very good port of Star Wars Outlaws. And by the time we got Star Wars Outlaws, it actually was a good game. It had some issues at launch. Those issues are gone. It's actually a really good game, and a lot of people loved playing that game this summer. And here we are again with another game that looks like it's running pretty damn well on Switch 2. So, Assassin's Creed Shadows deep dive into the Switch 2 port. So, hello everyone, Assassin's Creed Shadows comes to Nintendo Switch 2 on December 2nd, and we couldn't be more excited to bring Neo and Yasuke's journey in feudal Japan to wherever you like to play on what is on the TV or on the go. A title update released to date will be available at launch on Switch 2, with the exception of the Claws of Awaji expansion, which they're probably still working on for Switch 2. This version supports cross-progression via Ubisoft Connect, ensuring you can continue your journey seamlessly across platforms. So if you started this on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, you can bring your save file over. That's really good. Now, behind the scenes, bringing such a large and detailed open world originally developed for current-gen home consoles to Switch 2 required one of Ubisoft's most ambitious technical undertakings to date. The result is a seamless, high-fidelity experience. Whether you're playing in handheld or dock mode, to celebrate the upcoming release, we're joined by technical graphic director Yannick and project lead programmer Bruno to dive into the details of how the team ported the world of feudal Japan to the new console. And we've already seen the announcement trailer. They do have some new footage we'll show in a moment. Anyways, inside the technical challenge, bringing Shadows to Switch 2 is one of the toughest but most rewarding challenges I've ever tackled, says Bruno. We had to rethink almost everything from the way the world is rendered to how systems interact while keeping the soul of the game intact. The team's top priority was keeping the game visually stunning. Assassin's Creed Shadows was praised for its immersion and sense of scale, and players need to feel the same magic on Switch 2, but actually delivering the magic while keeping our frame rate target of 30 FPS, that's right, 30, not 60, and both docked and handheld modes required careful balancing act. So adopting the systems, Assassin's Creed Shadows was originally designed for current-gen home consoles. A lot of code level work has been done over the last few months to optimize and adapt the game architecture for Switch 2. This includes modifying game assets to streamline certain technical aspects of the quality without compromising the player's experience or the richness of the game. Behind the scenes, we've worked a lot to make the world run smoothly and remain visually stunning and dynamic, says Yannick. They talked about some of their cloud technology. Let's go and look at this first video clip they put up here. This is just in 1080p. Yeah, look, this looks good. They're showing weather effects. You're seeing the rain stuff here. You're seeing obviously like a sunny day. I believe you're gonna see some snow as well in this clip. Yeah, this is really neat. Obviously this game looks great. If you had told me this is a game on a Nintendo platform like 5 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, no way. But here we are. This is cool. So really, really happy to see that. And let's get into the rest of the article. It says, for example, we're using the same cloud and cloth simulation systems, but we optimize certain elements for the ARM processor and downscaled simulation data where needed to reduce GPU load, all while preserving visual fidelity. Additionally, while the Switch 2 supports ray-traced global illumination, global, dude, it's kind of funny when I'm reading these articles, how some of the words pop in my mind. Why the hell did I think global was global? Hey guys, let's have a global time over here. Anyways, sorry, we opted to use our solid baked global illumination system, which we also use for low spec PC setups and Xbox Series S versions, mainly for RAM memory reasons. This approach lets us preserve the overall experience as much as possible. So you can kind of go look at the clouds and stuff here is what they're trying to really show off in this scene here. I obviously got the castle, but it's the cloud stuff going on in the background. They wanted this to be like, hey, yeah, you know, we maintain fidelity, but we had to use a setting that we used on Xbox Series S and low-end PCs. All right, optimization. The team worked hard to preserve as much of the world dynamicism, dude, what is up with me and reading words today? Guys, what is going on? Why am I so tongue-twisted? This is like what I do for a living. And I know I'm sometimes suck at pronouncing like Japanese names and a couple select English words that I've just been mispronouncing my entire life, like hyperbole, it's hyperbole. Why I've been mispronouncing that my whole life and no one corrected me until like a year ago, I don't know. But this, I know how to read this word. This is just, all right, you know what? Let's move beyond this word. Keep this going. All right. One of the great strengths of Anvil, our game engine, is its high scalability, which allows us to adjust graphics and simulation settings without compromising the experience. Level of detail, draw distances, texture resolution, and element loading were carefully adjusted to maintain performance without compromising the world's depth. And obviously this is to show off some of that level of detail, and obviously the draw distance. I mean, it looks good. It's on Switch 2. This looks good. Obviously, you know, if you guys are used to PS5, Xbox, Series X, PC, you know, yeah, not as good as that, but come on. We're talking about the Switch 2 here. All right, environmental richness remains largely intact through NPC counts were reduced in highly populated areas to ensure smooth gameplay. It would be nice if we ever get to a point where the population densities don't need to be reduced, but obviously we're seeing significantly lower people in this area than we do on like PlayStation 5. So, you know, to be expected, of course, whether or not that impacts how you feel when you play the game, you know, it's up to the individual. Now, they are using deep learning super sampling. So the team also used deep learning super sampling, a technology that leverages sophisticated artificial intelligence algorithms to make high resolution visuals from low resolution images. In the end, this results in a sharper image with more accurate colors, improved textures, and fewer visual anomalies. Performance is also smoother, offering higher FPS through upscaling, better fluidity, and reduced latency. So here they're just showing a clip that clearly has DLSS at work. Now, DLSS might have been at work in every single clip, if we're completely honest, but yeah, they're just kind of showing how they maintain some of that smoothness of the gameplay. Good to go there. Now, designed for both ways to play, development team was able to deliver a stable 30 FPS experience, which again, we'll have to wait for independent tests to know how stable it is in both docked and handheld modes. The handheld mode is naturally more GPU limited, so we made some adjustments to image quality, draw distance, and level of detail settings to ensure smooth performance. While docked mode allows shadows to shine with the Switch 2's full visual power, HDR support brings vivid colors even to the smaller screen. The team also leveraged the variable refresh rate on the handheld screen to give a smoother gameplay feeling to players. Might help with some of the the resolution, so the frame rate dips and stuff might help smooth some of that over if there's a problem in handheld. So the lower frame rate limit for refresh rate is typically 40 FPS, but Assassin's Creed Shadow runs at 30 FPS, Bruno explains. We didn't want to compromise on that aspect, so we built a dedicated algorithm that keeps variable refresh rate enabled even at 30 FPS, keeping the game as fluid and responsive as possible. That's very interesting. So they had to create a custom algorithm. That's interesting. But yeah, that's obviously going to help smooth out frame rates, especially if there's any dips. All right, Switch-specific features, obviously. Nintendo Switch 2 Systems version of Assassin's Creed Shadows brings fresh and dynamic ways to dive into the gameplay. Touchscreen navigation makes interacting with maps and menus in the hideout more intuitive than ever. Yeah, I've always enjoyed the touchscreen controls on even the original Switch. Whenever you go to maps and games, it was one of the neater things that you could just sporadically do without having to move a joystick around. It was a little convenience there. It's just a nice to have. Now, as a reminder, the Switch 2 version of Assassin's Creed Shadows includes almost all post-launch content, except for the one they mentioned they isn't ready yet, and it's released. The Claws of Awaji expansion will be available at a later date in 2026. As I said, it's just they're still working on it for Switch 2, right? Upcoming updates will continue to align with other platforms, ensuring Switch 2 receives the same level of follow-up and support. Additional improvements are also planned, including ongoing optimization patches and future keyboard and mouse compatibility when dot. That's right. Going to give you keyboard and mouse, which makes a lot of sense considering you already have a built-in mouse right into the system. So why not go all the way and throw keyboard support in, put in wired mouse support, etc. All right, Assassin's Creed Shadows is also available on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Amazon Luna, Max. Man, I haven't heard of Amazon Luna in a while. It's their streaming service. Anyways, Max and Apple Silicon via the Mac App Store, PC through the Ubisoft Store, Steam, and the Epic Games Store, and as part of Ubisoft Plus premium subscription. So there you go. All good news. Like, obviously, until we get independent reviews, it's hard to know. But based on Outlaws and based on the footage they're showing here, it seems like this is another one of those really, really impressive ports. Ubisoft seems to have a phenomenal grip on how the Switch 2 technology works. I got a feeling we're going to get all of Ubisoft's best games moving forward because they really seem to understand how this technology works. And their engine, the Anvil engine and stuff, seems to have no problem scaling to Switch 2. All right, now we got to get into our next story. Nintendo purchased a game development studio, and they did it from another company they already are really close with. This is really interesting. The headline makes it sound more interesting than it really is. Yes, they bought a studio from Bandai Namco, so that sounds exciting. And then when you dig into it, though, the studio's pretty much only been working on Nintendo stuff for a while. I don't know that this is really going to enhance Nintendo's actual output. They're just going to change financially where money and stuff is going and who manages it and stuff. But I don't foresee this actually doing much for Nintendo's actual game development pipeline in terms of output to consumers, because again, the studio is basically already only making Nintendo stuff. That said, Nintendo has acquired or will be acquiring Bandai Namco Studios Singapore as a subsidiary, and they're going to name it Nintendo Studios Singapore. So they announced they will require a majority stake in Bandai Namco Studios Singapore. I believe it's 80% after reaching an agreement with Bandai Namco for the transfer of shares next year. Described in the press release as being for the purpose of strengthening its development structure, BNSS will become a Nintendo subsidiary and go by the new name of Nintendo Studios Singapore. The deal is planned to go through on the 1st of April 2026. This is not a joke, though, not an April Fool's joke, with Nintendo acquiring 80% of shares, with the rest, so they will own 100%, will follow sometime after the subsidiary's operations have stabilized. So what I kind of think is like Nintendo is trying to purchase, they're buying the whole studio, but there's going to be like a transition period of going from like Bandai Namco's management team over to Nintendo's management team. And so while that transition's happening, Nintendo wanted to ensure that Bandai Namco was still going to get some financial stuff out of this, while, keeping their team on staff for a bit while they handle transition stuff. So, yeah, I kind of think that's really all that's about. So Nintendo will eventually own the entire studio, like just outright, 100%. But again, transition period, Bandai Namco and Nintendo are very buddy-buddy. So, yeah, no, this is going to be probably no problem, really smooth the transition. All right. As we come over here, it says Nintendo has partnered with Bandai Namco on several first-party projects, with this studio in particular having worked on Splatoon 3, contributing concept art, character modeling, environment modeling, animation, according to the studio's website, as well as various high-profile Bandai Namco games. This is a description of this exact team from their actual website. Over the years, our studio in Singapore has worked on a variety of iconic game titles such as Tekken, Ace Combat, Soul Calibur, Taiko no Tetsujin. From concept art all the way to development, we cover it all. You can explore their whole portfolio, which also includes a bunch of Nintendo games, including Splatoon 3. Now, Nintendo anticipates the acquisition will only have a minor effect on Nintendo's results for this fiscal year, which makes a lot of sense because it's a next year acquisition that happens on April 1st. So not really going to be a huge impact unless it was costing Nintendo like $100 billion, which, come on, they're not buying Bandai Namco. They're buying this really small studio in Singapore from Bandai Namco. So sure, the price wasn't too much, but obviously we don't know the exact sales details. Like what's Nintendo paying Bandai Namco to buy this studio? We don't know. Anyways, the latest acquisition follows an acknowledgement earlier in November that the company intended to expand its internal development teams. And again, this does add to this, and this is part of game development. So it does expand their teams. It just expands them with a team that was already working with them, which that's kind of the way Nintendo does it. They make these partnerships with other studios. They help Nintendo out with games. And then after a while, hey, you just become part of Nintendo. So I guess this opens up Nintendo to maybe work with other studios beyond these people to continue to expand their business. So I guess maybe in that way, Nintendo's development gets expanded because they don't have to worry about partnerships with Bandai Namco for this studio. They can now work with Bandai Namco, Capcom, or some other studio to work with somebody else to maybe start helping Nintendo with games or even making new games, like they did with Metroid Dread. We're working with that outside studio, like we've seen with the Platinum Games. Astral Chain. Would love an Astral Chain 2 at some point. So anyways, it's about the purpose of the acquisition here. This is officially from Nintendo. And it says, it's contributed to develop Nintendo titles, including Splatoon series, has ongoing business relationship with Nintendo. Serving this business record, Nintendo has made a decision to acquire them. And again, it's about this business relationship. They've literally been working with Nintendo for a bit now, so it just made sense for Nintendo, made sense for that studio to say, you know what, let's just only work on Nintendo stuff moving forward. Let's get that talent over. What that does really mean, though, to me, is that Nintendo obviously has worked directly with these people and they recognize talent. Nintendo, I think, is making this acquisition, first and foremost for the talent. The team that has been helping out Nintendo has clearly impressed Nintendo. So adding more talent is also equally important as adding another development studio. All right. Last but not least, let's go over the Famitsu sales charts. We're going to go to Pierre485. He's got a bunch of other sales charts out there as well. Taiwan, I believe, and stuff. But the Japan one's the one that actually has numbers. We know that comes from Famitsu. So here you see Kirby Air Riders at number one at 195,594. A very good debut, honestly, for Kirby Air Riders in Japan, especially compared to the original release and even compared to other Kirby games. This is like the number 6th or 7th. Like highest debut for a Kirby game in Japan. So that's actually pretty good. And considering it's a spinoff even, that's impressive. Then you see obviously Mario Kart World chiming in at 67,000. It's pretty high. You're going to see why in a moment. And Pokemon Legends EA at 28,000. Taking the top 3 are, three of the most important games currently on Nintendo Switch 2. And I guess one's on Switch 1 as well. But this is why. This right here, Nintendo Switch 2, 126,953. You can see it is a 25,000 increase. That's right. Kirby led to a direct increase in sales. It sold some units. Congratulations to Kirby increasing the amount of units being sold week over week. Very good stuff there. Obviously, you can see everyone else, PS5, Switch, Xbox Series, and PS4. Now, you can get the Kirby Air Riders debut with nearly 200,000 units. You can see the whole top 10 here. You see Momotaro there at number 4. ZA, the Switch 2 edition at number 5. Momotaro Switch 2 at number 6. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment at number 7. But you're seeing a bunch of this list. 1, 2, 3, 4 of these games are Switch 2 or Switch 2 versions. So we're slowly seeing Switch 2 start to take over the top 10 as happens, the deeper and deeper we get into the generation. So it's a very good debut for Kirby Air Riders, more than double the GameCube entry in the 6th biggest launch for a Kirby title. That's what I'm saying. Pretty impressive. It's a spinoff. Mario Kart World continues to show massive legs, which of course it does. They're counting the bundle sales. Pokemon Legends EA holds better on Switch 2. Solid drop from Momotetsu and Hyrule Warriors. Another week with over 100K units for Switch 2 despite limited supply. PS5 surged with the launch of the more affordable digital model, but the impact appears to be limited. Yeah, there was a... did they have the digital model split here? I don't think they do. There's like 23,000 was for that brand new digital model that is much more in line with like the price of Switch 2 in Japan. But it didn't seem to have that big of an impact. A lot of people thought it could do 50, 75, maybe even 100,000 debut. It just seems like even with a more affordable price point, the interest level in PlayStation's console in Japan has been kind of waning for a while. And it's up to Sony to figure out what to do there. How can they reappeal back to the Japanese gamer base? And maybe that's what the PlayStation 6 hybrid handheld or whatever they're working on. Maybe the whole point of that is to try to penetrate the Japanese market. We'll see. Price point's going to be a big point there, as is obviously games. People buy Nintendo's platform for the games. You got to bring the goods. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But PlayStation 6 is probably still, I don't even think, it might not even be next year. It could be the year after. So, all right. As we go down here, we see here that top 30 on the software chart. Just take a quick glance at that for those interested. And then obviously you can see the platforms here. Kind of interesting. This is just for software sales, like how much sold on each platform, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just interesting stuff all around. Some milestones to 2.2 million for Mario Kart, 100,000 plus for Air Riders and Momotaro Detsu, 100,000 plus as well for Galaxy 1 plus 2, and for Age of Imprisonment, also crossing the 100,000 mark in Japan alone. So there you go. Pretty interesting stuff. And that's going to do it. That's it. 4 stories, and we got 25 plus minutes of video. Told you, they're all big headline-worthy stories. I could literally make an individual 10-minute video on each one of these stories, but we didn't make this a 40-minute video. We made it a 25-ish, 26-ish minute video. Thank you so much for tuning in. God, I love this job, man. I'm one of the luckiest people on this earth that I get to do and cover news like this for a living, discuss it with all of you, and catch you tonight on our live stream where I'm sure you guys will have questions about all of this stuff and even more. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.